maybe we'll go back to it once I'm less of a hater. But are you guys the kind of readers who like DNF books quickly? Like if you're not enjoying a book, you'll just leave it in the middle and not finish it and then move on to something that you're actually enjoying? Or are you the type who like leaves it and, convinces themselves that like, oh, I'm gonna get back to it, I'm gonna read it at some point, and that I'm not like gonna leave it in the middle, and then like months will pass and then you're like finally used to the fact, or like start accepting the fact that you're never gonna finish that book? Like what, or if there's a different answer to this besides these two extremes, like what do you do with books that you are not enjoying? Like do you still finish them and make sure to like have finished it so you can hate on it fully after finishing it, or do you just move on to the next thing? Like I'm curious to know, because I am the second option. I still have a really tough time DNFing. DNF means did not finish, and so I have a really hard time letting myself DNF books, especially like more so if they are physical books. Like I have some books that I'll be talking about soon that were so hard to put to my DNF pile, especially because they're physical books and I like got them, or like I paid money for them, and the fact that I didn't enjoy them is just, really bothering me. But yeah, it took me a while. Like I literally had some of these books on my currently reading shelf, like on like Goodreads, Storygraph, and Fable. Like it would say that I'm still reading those books even though I haven't picked it up for months. And so yeah, I finally went through my currently reading shelf on these reading platforms and finally put them all to DNF. The ones I haven't picked up in a while, and also the ones I knew that I really just did not want to get back to, or like the ones, not that I didn't want to get back to, it's just like it was not what I was in the mood for. And yeah, I'll explain why. But anyways, let me quickly talk about all the books that I DNF'd or did not finish in the year 2024. I'm hopeful. We're almost towards the end of 2024, and so I'm hopeful that there won't be any more books that will be added to my DNF file this year, but we shall see. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi, my name is Anvita. I love to read books and I love to talk about books, and like I said before, I will be talking about all the books I did not finish this year. Like I said, it's very hard for me to DNF books, but this year has been much better. I think I'm like slowly transitioning from like the kind of reader who like forces herself to finish books even though they're not enjoying it, to becoming a reader who wants to read only the books that she enjoys and will DNF books if she's not enjoying them. And so this year has been a lot more in terms of the phase of me moving towards DNFing books. And so I've had a lot more books that I have DNF'd this year than probably all other years where I've been reading. And so there are a lot of books on this list that I was really sad to put on this list, and that's why I like had them on my current reads shelf for like literally months, until I finally was like, I'm like not, like it's taking me so much energy just to make myself want to pick this book up again. And that's just, yeah, I'm trying not to be that person. Anyways, let's get started. I will talk about all the books that I DNF'd this year and why I DNF'd them, what I was thinking when I was DNFing them, and also will I ever get back to picking these books again? Maybe like restarting it from the beginning or going back into it when I'm actually in the mood for it or not. I will let you know. Anyways, let's get started. Please don't hate me for this. A lot of these books are very popular books / authors who I also love, which is why it was so hard and it physically hurt me to DNF these books. But I just had to do it because at the end of the day, I was not enjoying them. So, like I said, I had a lot of these books on my currently reading shelf for a long time, like for months before I DNF'd them. So some of them could be that I started reading them in 2023, but only finally made myself DNF it in 2024. And so I'm going according to when I stopped reading, when I put them in DNF shelves. So this could be not fully books that I read in 2024 and just books that I DNF'd this year, finally. So anyways, the first one, this one I did start in 2023, but I don't know the last time I finished, like I stopped reading it, if that was this year or if that was last year, but that is Pageboy by Elliot Page. This I was listening to on audiobook and I loved it. Like I read like at least 30% of this and I was enjoying it and I loved it, but I was like, I mean, it deals with a lot of things that are very sensitive topics and like obviously very, you know, personal and raw and like very emotionally charged things. And so I think I just got to a point where I was not able, or like I was not able to read it anymore, or just wasn't in the mind space to be reading about that, I guess. And so I stopped it for a while, and then anytime I like tried to go back to it, I would like again feel like I'm not ready for this yet. And so I just haven't gone back to reading it since then. And so yeah, I'm not sure if I will go back to reading it. I do want to, I really want to finish it because I was really enjoying it, but I'm also at the point where like I don't know when that will be, if I do ever go back to it, and if I will even be able to like pick it up in like and enjoy it the way I was enjoying it when I started reading it. And so yeah, it was very sad. But literally on Storygraph I had to DNF it right now because even though I had DNF'd it on Goodreads, I hadn't done it on Storygraph, and so I was still saying that I was currently reading it, even though I haven't picked that book up in at least 6 months, maybe even more. Maybe it's been a year. Second is also again another memoir. I think this is again another thing, like a lot of these memoirs that I'm reading are very emotionally charged and very like heavy, that like I start them and I'm enjoying them, and then suddenly I get to a point where I'm like, okay, I need to take a break from this. Like it's getting a bit too much for me, and like it's just very emotionally charged, and maybe I'm not ready for it anymore, or not feeling like I can handle all that information at that time. And so I stop reading them and then end up not going back to them. And so the second one is Finding Me by Viola Davis. This one also, again, a lot of sensitive topics, very emotionally charged, and you know, a lot of really personal, raw things about her life and her story. And I really, really was enjoying this and was listening to the audiobook again and also reading the physical copy because my sister had bought the book a while back and she read it, and it was just nice to see like the pictures and stuff. Like, yeah, anyways, I do again want to go back to this at a point where I feel like I'm ready to read this again and enjoy it. And it's written really well, and it's really like so honest and real, and I do want to go back to it, but again, I don't know when that will be. And so yeah, it was sad. But this one was definitely this year because I do remember reading it or picking it up after I moved to Dubai. And so yeah, like I DNF'd this very recently. Like it was literally when I was planning this video. So it was still in my currently reading shelf like for the last like 4 or 5 months before like I was reading this. I started this I think in like September or October, I think, and then finally DNF'd it right now in December. So yeah, I do want to go back to it. That's why I was still in my currently reading, because I want to go back to it and I want to read it. I just don't know when that will be. Next is another book that I really wanted to love. I had bought the physical copy of this as well, and then I gave it away to somebody, and after realizing it's not for me and I didn't enjoy it. But this one is called You Exist Too Much by Zena Afarat. And yeah, I picked this up. It sounded really good. It sounded, Palestinian queer book. Like, I really wanted to read it, and I got to it and I read I left it very early on because I realized it was talking about the kind of topics that I don't like to read about, I guess. And so yeah, I'm someone who needs likable narrators, likable characters. Like, I can't not like my main character. If I don't like the main character, then I'm not going to be invested in learning about them and learning about their story or seeing their growth and change, I guess. And so I need to have some connection. It doesn't even have to be a connection. I just have to at least feel for them and want them to have a good ending and, want for them to get better or grow as a character. And I didn't have that. I think the first couple chapters I read maybe 20 pages of it, and I already knew that I was not going to enjoy it. Unreliable narrators are still fine as long as there's something about them where I can root for them. But I was not seeing that with the main character in this book, and it was very sad. And I had bought the book, and so yeah, I gave it away, and yeah, it was not for me. It was the premise sounded good and everything, but then when I got to it and read about the character and her voice, I just did not enjoy it. So yeah, that was the third book. I was really excited for this and really hoping I would love it, but did not work out that way. So yeah. Next is a book which I did not buy, and I'm so glad because I was almost convinced to buy it. I saw this book for the first time and heard about it for the first time when I went to a Barnes & Noble in LA when I was visiting in April, and I saw the cover and I was like, I need to have this. But then I went to Storygraph, Goodreads and stuff and saw the ratings and the review, and they were not that great. So I was like, hold on, let me get this on Libby first and see if I like it. If I like it, then I'll get the physical book. And I'm so glad I did not let my impulsive, behavior affect this, and actually read the book on Libby before and saw what I thought about it first, and I did not enjoy it. So anyways, the book's name is The Tatami Galaxy by Tomihiko Morimi, and the cover, as you can see, is so good, so cute, and I love covers like this. And I actually saw, I think, the second book in this series, the cover of that book, and I was like, I need to get this. And so I almost did, but then I didn't, and ended up reading the first book on Libby. I think I got to 30-40%. I was almost halfway done with this book and nothing was happening. The narration, the narrator's voice was just not pulling me in. I was bored kind of. I was reading this in my hostel in LA and I just wasn't having a fun time. I wasn't understanding what was going on. It just felt like nothing was happening. And I'm someone, even though I do love character-driven stories, I do need plot. I need there to be a good balance of both for me to enjoy it, and I wasn't getting that. I don't even remember what the story was about because I was not immersed in it at all. I was bored. And yeah, the cover is beautiful, as you guys saw, but I am glad I didn't get it. And this one was much easier to DNF for me. One, because I didn't have the physical book, and two, because it was not something that I had been anticipating for a while. With Pageboy, with Finding Me, with You Exist Too Much, all three books were books that I was really hoping I would like, but this one was literally I saw it that day, I liked the cover, I immediately got it on Libby and I immediately read it. So there was no like time for me to like set expectations or hype it up in my head, I guess. So it was much easier to DNF, and so I did it. And so I read those 30-40% in one day. But mostly the only reason I even got to that point was because I was also listening to the audiobook. And yeah, otherwise I would have probably left it in the first like 10-15%. So yeah, still made it a good way through and still did not enjoy it. So yeah, anyways, the next book that I DNF'd, I think I DNF'd this one in the last 6 months, like second half of 2024. I think I started reading it when I already had moved to Dubai. And so it's called Big Swiss by Jen Began. This one, again, like it's not even that it was like, the premise is what kind of got me in, because again, like she's transcripting these therapy sessions and stuff, and like listening in on this woman and like all these things, and like it was very intriguing, but nothing was really happening with that. Like it was, again, like I think this was again one of those like plot versus character, and this did have a plot which interested me, but it was so focused on the character and like had like a lot of like different like scenes and stuff that like was just more showing the characterization of like the characters in the story, but not really, the plot wasn't really moving forward. And so yeah, it was weird. And I do like weird books sometimes. Like it depends if it's done well. And like even with character books, like if it's done well, it makes sense. Like even like I think right before this or right after this, I had read briefly A Delicious Life by Nell Steven, and that book also is more character focused than plot focused, and it is also like a weird book in the sense that the narrator is a bisexual ghost from like the 1600s, I think, or something. And so I loved that book. Like it was weird, it was more character focused, less plot focused, but like it was still doing its job, I guess. With this, I think the issue was just that like I wasn't enjoying the narrator, and I wasn't really caring like about her characterization and stuff. Like I kept wanting something to go forward with the plot, and like for them to meet or for something to happen. And like I can't remember how far I got into the book, but I think I was pretty like at least like 20-25% in, but nothing was really happening. And so yeah, I DNF'd it. Again, this one was sort of easy. It was easier than like the physical books, again, because I read this on Libby, so it was easier to DNF, but harder to DNF compared to Tatami Galaxy, because it was still something I was enjoying sort of and like waiting for, because I wanted to know what would happen. Will they meet? Will they talk? Like if they're actually something is actually going to come out of that relationship. But still ended up DNFing because yeah, it just wasn't something I was enjoying, and it was putting me in a reading slump, and I didn't want that, and so I left it. It was harder to leave compared to Tatami Galaxy, just because one, it was queer, and I wanted to be, reading more like obscure, like weird, intriguing books with like intriguing plots and stuff. And this was another book that I'd seen like browsing bookstores in LA and SF, and that's why I picked it up in the first place. And yeah, I wanted to like it, which is why it was harder to, and like I had more time to set my expectations, I guess, or like have more expectations with the book, just because I had seen it in April and then only started reading it like a couple months later when I moved here. And so yeah, it was harder to DNF, but way easier than the physical books that I have DNF'd since then. So, okay. The last book that I DNF'd that was not a physical book was Falling Back in Love with Being Human, Letters to Lost Souls by Kai Cheng Thom. This one is like very short, which is why I was like trying to like force myself to get like to finish it, because I think it was like less than 100 pages and it was just like letters, right, to lost souls and stuff. But I think my issue with this was the timing of me reading it, because like I can't remember what exactly was going on with the world at that time, but there was something going on in particular relation to me, and I was just like, it's letters to lost souls, but it's like trying to find love and compassion for like people who do you wrong, and like for people, you know, even like objectively bad people, subjectively bad people, and like all these different things. But like I can't remember exactly what was happening, but something was happening back then when I was reading this, and I was like, I don't think I can read about this when I'm like literally in such a mood to hate people, if that makes sense. So I was just mad at the world and mad at people and just didn't want to be reading about finding compassion and love for those kind of people. And so that's why I DNF'd it. And yeah, I maybe will go back to it once I'm less of a hater, but we shall see. Because yeah, I don't know. This was again another attempt for me to read more nonfiction, and clearly didn't work out. Yeah, so many, like the 2 memoirs I picked up this year, I DNF'd, and then this I DNF'd. There have been some others that I have been reading a lot more on like writing and craft, which are going very slowly, but still haven't put them in DNF because they're still helping me. And so I have been reading nonfiction, but these did not work for me. So yeah, maybe I'll get back to it at some point, but honestly don't think that will happen. And again, this one, it was harder to DNF because again, I wanted to be, you know, getting through my hatred and then moving on to like acceptance and like compassion and like, or even just like indifference maybe, but like, yeah, but it was easier to DNF also because it was on Libby and I didn't have a physical book of it. So yeah, it was also harder in the sense that this was a book recommended by one of my friends and I wanted to read it fully, but could not make myself do it. So anyways, moving on to the physical books. One of them many of them I definitely want to go back to. Again, I can't tell if this is because they're physical books and they'll be with me for a while, so I'm like, I should try to make myself read them again at some point when I'm actually in the mood for them. But, or if it's like, I actually want to get back to it and I just wasn't in the mood for it, I don't know yet. Some of the physical books, one of them, I don't know where it is, so I'm just gonna show you guys the cover, but it was Dear Wendy by Ann Zhao. This book I bought at Y'all West in April when I was in LA, and I really was excited for this and wanted to love this, and I think I still definitely want to go back to it. One, I just wasn't in the mood for it when I picked it up. That is one of the main reasons why I want to get back to it. And two, it's talking about a lot of topics that I'm interested in and want to read about, and so I'm really hoping that in a couple months, maybe sometime in 2025, I'll want to pick this book up again because it talks about asexuality. It has 2 main characters who are aromantic and asexual and all these different things. So I really want to read it. But when I had picked it up, I was again not in the mood for it. And also both the characters were seeming quite childish when I was reading it. And like, this is set in college, but like it was just seeming like their like rivalry or like enemy aspect or whatever was seeming very forced. And so I just, yeah, I'm wondering if that was just like my mood at the time or if it was actually that way. So I want to give it a benefit of the doubt and get back to it at some point, but I don't know when that will be. But I do really want to read it again because it covers a lot of topics that I want to read about. So yeah, hopefully I will read it again, pick it up again at some point. Because I think I only read not even like 10% of this book before I DNF'd it. So maybe they do have like growth and, you know, become less childish towards each other hopefully soon. We'll see. But yeah, the plot seems fun. They're like, yeah, it seems fun, but I do want to get back to it at some point. So I will let you guys know when or if that happens. But yeah, I have hopes that I'll get back to it. So yeah, the next book that I also own, this one was so sad. And this was the most recent DNF. I definitely want to go back to it. I just realized my photo card that I put as a bookmark was still in it because that's how much I wanted to get back to it. But anyways, the book is A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faisal. This is literally so sad because We Hunt the Flame was I keep saying literally, but We Hunt the Flame was one of my top reads last year. Like that series I loved and was like forcing everyone to read it, and it was just so good that I was waiting for this and have been anticipating this for ever since I first heard about it, but also ever since I read We Hunt the Flame. I was like, I'm going to read everything by this author and I know I'm going to love it. And so not loving this and to the point that I DNF'd it was very sad. Yeah, but I think I got to more than half of this book when, like, till I read it. I can't remember when I stopped, but yeah, it's just very sad. I also, and it's a signed copy too, so I definitely want to get back to it. I think, again, I started this was the first book I started this month in December, and I have just been in a slump. So I think that could be a very valid reason for why I haven't been enjoying this, but I just think the world building and everything that we got in We Hunt the Flame was so, you know, well done and like detailed and everything that like in this we just didn't get it. And like the love triangle in this is not well established, I feel like. And so yeah, it just feels like it needs more. Like it's too thin for all the stuff that could have been explored in this, I feel like. And so that is what was disappointing me, I think. But yeah, I am liking the whole heist vibe to it, and like the tea shop and like vampires and like all these different things. But I just feel like it needed a lot more like exposition and just details about every single aspect. Like the dynamics, the relationship dynamics between all the characters needed to be explored more, and just like the plot and like everything before we get to like the heist part of it. Like I feel like, yeah, I don't know, but I do really want to get back to this, and I am hopeful that the second book will be even better maybe. And I do want to read the second book, and so I'm gonna hopefully, I think the second book comes out in September, and so hopefully before that I'm gonna try and pick this up again and read it, and then hopefully I will love it enough this time to finish it and then read the second book. Because yeah, I'm gonna give it another chance for sure. It was very hard to say to put this in DNF, but DNF means did not finish, but it does not mean that I'll never pick it up again, is what I'm saying in my head. So yeah. Okay, next, this one was also really hard just because, again, the bookmark is literally still in this. I think I'm gonna leave it in this because I do, again, want to really get back to it. But the book is The Pairing by Casey McQuiston. Like, look at that. I'm like literally, this is how much I've read and this is how much is left. and I did read it really fast because I was also listening to the audiobook after a certain point, but almost 300 pages into this book. So I definitely want to finish this, but at some point I just got the feeling that like both of them, the main characters, are disasters that was set from way ahead, but it's also feeling like the kind of disasters who should not be together. And so since this is a romance and they're definitely probably going to end up together at the end and have a happily ever after, I'm like not sure if I want that, which is why I stopped. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna continue it the next day, and then the next day never came. And so this ended up being on my currently reading from October till now, and then I finally DNFed it. But yeah, I don't know if I want to root for them together. They're just not great for each other. They're great people. They're disasters, but they're great people. But I don't know if I want them to be together. And so, yeah, I'm hoping to get back to it and actually see them being different and better people for each other and then get their happily ever after. But yeah, I was really enjoying it. It is great writing, and like the whole like just feeling like I'm like traveling around Europe with them and like eating all these beautiful descriptions of food, and just yeah, like it's so fun. But I don't know if I'm convinced that they should be together. Hopefully it'll prove me wrong. I stopped being in the mood for this because of that. And so hopefully when I'm ready to read about some disaster by people, I'll pick this up again, because it's so fun and I do want to read it, but I don't know when I'll get back into the mood to picking this up. So we shall see. But yeah, literally was so invested in it. I've been annotating it and everything, and yeah. And then the last book was also a physical book, and it was The Lilies by Quinn Diacon Furtado. This one also, yeah, I read like 27 pages. The bookmark is still in here. I read 27 pages of this and I just wasn't vibing with this. I was really excited for this book. I got it at Your West, and it's like a dark academia. There's an academy. The main character is non-binary, and like all these different things, and like all these different characters, POVs with, and everyone's hiding something and everyone's trying to find something. And it just sounded so fun with its description, but I get into it and the writing is just putting me off. Like, it was really hard for me to even get to 27 pages. Like, I like kept reading like 5 pages and wanting to stop because the writing just wasn't flowing and I was just not having fun. Like, it wasn't feeling like real 3D people, if that makes sense. So yeah, did not have that much of a hard time DNFing this just because it was so hard to pick it up, but also even when I did pick it up, it was so hard to keep reading, and I only read 27 pages, so I wasn't as invested in making myself finish it. And so yeah, I DNF'd this. I don't even think I like had enough time to like put it on like my reading platforms and stuff. So I don't know. It sounded so fun again, and has queer characters and like all these different things. Like, I wanted to enjoy this, but maybe at some point I'll try to read it again and see if this time I'm gonna enjoy the writing. Maybe I wasn't in the mood for this, I don't know. But yeah, we will see. Anyways, those were all the books that I did not finish this year and the reasons why, plus whether I want to get back to them at some point or if I'm done with them forever. So I think that was 10 books, which is pretty high compared to like the previous years, because like I said, I hate DNFing books, but I'm trying to get to the point where I want to be reading books I enjoy more than finishing the books that I have, you know? So yeah, anyways, let me know what kind of reader you are with books that you're not enjoying, because I'm curious about that. And sorry if you read any of these books and really enjoyed them. people have different reading tastes. It's whatever. And if you guys enjoyed watching this video, I highly recommend checking out my latest podcast episode where me and Gitanshi talk about all our best and worst books of 2024. So in that, you will be able to find the books that I hated but did not DNF. So I finished them and then I could hate on them completely. And so those are there, but then also the three books that I thought were my best books of 2024. So, and yeah, I hope you guys have a good rest of the week and a good rest of the year. I will see you guys next time, next Monday, 5 p.m. IST. Bye.